Welcome everybody to optimizing structural design from start to finish. Today we have Jim Johnson, Weyerhaeuser Technology Specialist, joining Steve Rudowsky, Weyerhaeuser Trust Joist Territory Manager, and I am contributing editor to Fine Homebuilding, Ian Schwant. We are going to be shortly turning it over to Jim Johnson, who is going to give us some basic overview for using Forte Web to size some basic members for residential building. We'll turn it over to Jim for some background on Forte Web.
I appreciate it, Ian. Thank you. Once again, my name is Jim Johnson. I'm a software technology specialist for Weyerhaeuser. I've been in this industry with Weyerhaeuser for 20 years, been with the construction industry for probably 30 now. So, just a little background on myself. Today, I'm going to go over the Forte Web manual you see on the screen. I'm going to bring up Forte Web as I'm talking. We're going to go through this. We're going to size some members, just show you how Forte Web works, kind of get you comfortable seeing, input, what Forte Web is, how to use it. And like they said, if there's any questions as we get going through, please just type them in and we'll answer those as we get going. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just slide my stuff out of the way so you can see the Forte Web screen. So Forte Web is all on the internet now. There's no disk to send it out. There's no software to update. It's all controlled on the web. Anytime there's updates, that happens at night when nobody's using it. So, wee hours in the morning, we push the updates. So when you first get onto Forte Web, if you've never had an account, you need to click this need to register. And so basically what we're doing is we're just confirming that you're not a robot or, trying to just create a bunch of spam emails. So what will happen is you'll click the need to register. It will take you to another page and you'll fill out your information, contact information, name, number, email address. And then within a few minutes, you'll receive a confirmation email as long as you didn't mistype your email address. And if you did by accident, you can always go in and re-register, or you can call us at software support for Weyerhaeuser and say, hey, I think I mistyped it. And the folks at the software support will, oh, yep, here it is. What do you want us to change it to? And they'll help you out. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to log in. So when you see my screen, it's going to be full of jobs and everything that I've done year to date, actually since Forte Web has been out. So just going to go ahead and log in. And so the nice thing about Forte Web is that it is on the internet. It's on the web. So if you have internet access, whether it's on a tablet, your cell phone, you can access Forte Web at any time. Like I said, as long as you have access. And so before we get into like sizing the material and doing all the nuts and bolts behind it, I wanted to show you what the screens mean, where you're at, how things affect where you're at when you're doing something. So I always like to start out with the help menu because a lot of help menus, whether you're on the website or a software, they're not great help menus. They put you in the right direction. But the thing is with Forte Web and most of our softwares, we have this live chat feature. And when we say live chat, it's not like a robot, like you type it, you click it, and then a robot replies and is like, how are you doing? It's an actual live person that we have at our software support team that's doing the chatting. So if you have a question on sizing, anything, whether it's like, hey, I need help sizing this member, they can try to walk you through it, or they'll be ask for your information and say, hey, I'll get an engineer, I'll get a training specialist with you. It's all live. The next thing that's is this help feature. Now, whenever you click on help, these are all web-based documents. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it so you can see, and it takes you kind of at the file manager, and then you can search, you can type things in here to search, getting started, and it's all just like a quick concept of like, oh, what's a Forte Web overview? So you can click on that and just go through here. So this help will help you out wherever you're at in there. Uh, Other things that I find very interesting is this got an idea. So as you use Forte Web, if you have an idea, you're like, man, I'd really like to see Forte Web do this. You can go ahead and click on these. And this is for anybody who has a registered Forte Web. You can go on here and look at like what's trending for ideas. You can vote on them. You can say, okay, I have a new idea. Maybe I want to see if my idea is up there anywhere, and you can search for it. If not, add it up there. And it's not like these are going up to a black hole where no one's ever going to look at them. Our software support team is up here every day looking at it. Our development team is going through here looking at these to see, what can we bring into the next release of Forte Web. Uh, does this affect our other softwares? Can we do this in multiple softwares? So if you have an idea, put it up here. If the idea is up there, vote on it. The more that it's voted on, the better likelihood it will be in the next instance or the next release of Forte Web. Also, what's new? Anytime you get on here, if there is something new, Forte Web it'll tell you this is what's new. If you want to come up here and say, I want to take a tour of Forte Web, whatever screen you're located at, whether it's the file import, the job manager, the job tree, whatever screen you're at, when you click on this, take a tour, it pops up to where you're at on the screen. So pretty handy if you're trying to size a member or you're at a certain point and you're like, how do I get from point A to B? I'm going to go do this tour, and it will give you that refresh of kind of where you're at. Let's proceed on in here. Terms of use, that's just basically our software agreement, right? Everybody reads that. I pay attention to it, not really, but that's all that is. And then you have your different languages that you can select from. Just make sure I didn't forget anything in here. That all looks good. And then the next part before we get sizing is our settings, our user profile, our settings, and our materials manager. And you can log out here. Now, I think since Forte Web has been on, I've never clicked on the little icon and logged out. I just click on the X and log out. But I'm not going to click on my user profile because that will show you all my passwords and stuff. But this is where you can come in and reset your password, update your zip code, and any of that information. And then your settings, these are kind of basically what you're trying to do. General settings, is it your display unit? Are you used to feet decimal, metric, feet sixteenths? However you're used to seeing it, you can put that in there. Material list rounding. So now we have a feature in here that we just released where it has, like, say I'm sizing a floor and there's 7 I-joists and I'm going to build my tree up and I'm going to keep track of it. I can get a material list and then I can say, hey, I want this rounded to the nearest even foot, nearest whole foot, or there's no rounding. This is grayed out, not area that's going to work yet. It's our price comparison. So like when you're comparing, 210 joist to a 110 joist and different on series spacing, which one is cheaper? We have what's in there now per wood volume, so we can get a pretty good idea of how that all works. This is to come later, future releases. The next thing I want to talk about is quick loads. You can create any type of quick loads. I kind of went through here and cleaned this out before today's class or session. I just didn't want to have a bunch of loads in there. I have different customers where I've created like a Montana snow load for like the Kalispell area, or Denver, Colorado snow load. And I had them all kind of put in there. So when I'm sizing roof members and stuff for my helping my customers out, I have the right loading that they're doing, or I put it in there by the customer's name. And basically to do that, you click the plus. Right off the bat, it comes with a quick load, and you can say, is it residential or commercial? You can label it whatever you want for that quick load. Maybe I want this roof live and no snow load on this one. I have a roof over there, but now I can go through here and say, okay, my dead load is, let's say it's a 40-pound dead load, and my roof live is just 40/40 something, and then you just hit save. And this is going to apply to what members, and you can pick and choose what members you want to apply the loading to. And those will come into play later down the road when we start loading the software. So not only do we do webinars like this, there is also extra training at if you speak to a Weyerhaeuser territory manager and get a Weyerhaeuser learning account. We have learning tutorials on there. We have Vimeo videos. They're former YouTube videos, so you can get on and see them. And I'm going to say it again: the ability to size a beam on your phone or a tablet that has internet connection is huge. So now that we're in here, let's go ahead and go back into settings. The last thing I want to look at is your materials manager. Now, this is what drives Forte Web and allows you to choose the materials. So right up here in the upper right-hand corner is my zip code, right? So wherever you're located, and that's based off of your settings. I can change this based on, what I'm trying to design. I don't do it at my product selection. I'll show you where you can change it based on per job, especially if you're doing a job somewhere other than your default location. But what happens is when you put in your zip code, the product that is unavailable will be this red color. And then if it's a special order that you might not have, it will be the blue or not the blue, sorry, the tan color. And depending on, if it's available or a special order, it will light up that way for us. All right. So just showing, and basically, I'm just going to go in and expand a product real quick just to show you, depending on what you stock or what you want to have access to, you can pick and choose. I have customers that do not stock like 9.5 series, and so they don't even have it checked in. But the beauty is if it's available in your area, the design engine will suggest it with like an asterisk saying, hey, maybe try this. And that's the same with your Paralam product. Now there are two different types of Paralam beam products. You got your 2.0 Paralam and then your 2.2E. And depending on what region of the United States you're in, if you're in the east, anything east of the Mississippi, you're the 2.0E Paralam. If you're west of the Mississippi, you're the 2.2E Paralam. That's pretty standard when you're sizing, and depending on your zip code, you will have those either turned off or turned on for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. This is our file manager, and you can, if you want Forte Web to always open up to your file manager, like mine does right here, you can come into your settings and always have things save as default, or where you want it. I like mine coming to this page because this is where, if I take our whole house software Javelin and I say I want to export a member so I can come in and run different scenarios against it, I want to be on this screen. So this is a list of all my files. These are the recent ones all the way up to like a month ago. So you can click on any of these and use it. The beautiful thing about Forte Web, and this is like one of my favorite aspects of this, is you can create what we call teams. And depending on, who's in that team, you can create that and send them emails. So for example, if I was to edit this team, it's my training team. And these are all people that are members of my team. So if I wanted to add a member, all I would do is click on this, enter their email address, and then hit the little plus check sign right here. And even if they don't have a Forte Web account or registered version of Forte Web, it will send them an email that says, hey, Jim Johnston wants you to be part of his training team. And what that does, and then you can just click on it, create your account if you don't have it, and then you get put on this team. And because I started the team, I can add members, make them administrators. So what happens here is, let's say I'm doing sizing a whole house, starting at the roof, working my way all the way down to the floor, and I get stuck on something, and I'm just having a heck of a time trying to figure it out, I'm not catching loads, or I need a second opinion on it, I can email anybody on my team and say, hey, there's a file called demo one, for example. I'm having issues with shear. Can you look through there, make sure I have my loads correct? And I don't have to email them a file. They can just get on and see that. Now, if you don't take advantage of the teams, and the common question that I get is, where is the file? Because everything's on the cloud. I want to be able to take this file, save it, email it to somebody so they can open it up. And in your file manager, I'm going to come back over here to my files. Right here, if I grab one of these, I can move it, I can import it, I can download it, I can delete it. So any of these are available to do whatever you want. So let's say this person doesn't want to be on my team, but I want them to look at this. I can download this sample job, and it downloads the file and it puts it in my downloads folder on my computer. And it's a .4fw file that you can send somebody. You can also print your report at the end, like the final calc sheet, to a PDF, and then send that, save that, and send that as well. Sometimes building a code official, somebody who's going out looking at the job, may want to be part of that team. You may have houses, and if they're part of one team, they're not part of another. So you can have several teams in here with several different people in different teams, and they only see the files that you create under that team. Where this one is my files. These are all my files that I've created. So that's kind of file manager, recent files, and teams. And I really like the teams aspect. I have customers that we share files back and forth all the time. So it's a pretty nice, handy little feature. They can send me an email too with the file. And that's what I have, one guy that sends me the Forte file and an email saying, hey, on the teams, I've created this. Can you look at it? And by the way, here's the file. So kind of double helping you out. I'm going to slide the PowerPoint that we put in the chat does have what it looks like. I can put my computer in like a phone simulator thing just to show you how it works. But this screen does a pretty good job of the mobile interface. It's a little bit compressed compared to what you see on the screen, but it all works on your mobile. You have your typical files across the top. So how to use it, how to size it, and that'll come into play as we get going. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with what I'm showing here first. And then if there's time at the end, we'll go ahead and start looking at the mobile version. I'll put the simulator on so you guys can see that, and I'll pick, I think the latest version, I can do like an iPhone 12 or something like that. So let's go ahead and create a new file. And I'm going to use these reference plans that they're attached in the PowerPoint. I'm going to start, typically when I size whole house projects, I may start at the roof and work my way down to the floor just to track loading. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and start down here, size a couple floor joists, maybe some beams, and just basic simple sizing of things, show you what the preview looks like. And by the time that's all done, we may be up against the hour. So let's go ahead and just begin looking at these. And I'll point out, I'll slide that back over when what we're going to size and go through. So I'm going to click on here and say new file. And I'm going to just call this, just give it the initials. And so now I have my job tree that sets up. So before, when I was talking about your zip code and getting different products, mine is by default is right here. Let's say that this product that I'm sizing is going somewhere else other than here. I can change this, and that will open up different products for me. So I don't have to do it on a program level. I can do it on a job level. Then inside here, and this is my job level, my job settings. And any of these, once I get it, I can hit it save as default. You have your different building codes, whether you're in the United States or Canada. You have your different iterations of the IBC. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 2021. That's the latest. And for example, now I'm going to say save as default. So the next time I come in and open up the IBC, it'll be at the 2021. Now, if I drop down and say NBC, it already is defaulted to my 2020 because I was helping a customer and I stayed at that one. One thing to note is at this level, I'm not committed to anything yet. So I can go ahead and change my building codes and anything else in here that I want. Once I start adding products, I'm kind of stuck at whatever building code I put in. If you accidentally started in the wrong building code, you're just going to have to re-put in your information based on your new building code. Right here is your job summary. This will come into play later too, but any jobs, any material, any products that you have in your, excuse me, in your job, we'll list right here. And we can link loads. I'll show you how that all works. Then you have your wind loading. And this is a little different in Canada than it is in the United States. So depending in the United States, depending where you're at, what risk category you're at is where you check. You can click on your wind zone maps to find out where you're at, what wind zone you should be using, category 1, 2, or 3. And each of them have kind of a little description of where they need to be. If I go back into job properties and switch this over to NBCC or the Canadian one, wind loading is a little bit different. You just select your location and then your territory province or your location, and then that will automatically adjust. So let's just jump back into here. Seismic, depending on where you're at, you can come in here and edit these. I typically leave mine at the default for this standard right here for the seismic. So once we get the job tree, our job information kind of filled out, now we can go ahead and jump in and start doing sizing products. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit this plus sign right here in the upper left-hand corner. And as I do that, now we have our floor applications, joist, drop beam, flush beam. We have our roof, rafters, drop beam, flush beam, hips and valleys. I know today's class is going to be kind of basic, sticking probably in this category right here. We're going to be hosting another one where we're going to go into more of what we call an advanced, and we'll hit more of these topics as we get going on it. But once you sign up for Forte Web, feel free to use any of these. The first thing I'm going to size is in that plan is the floor joist FJ4.
Hey, Jim.
So, yes.
Can you just explain a little bit more how the job tree works? I know you're starting with it, but a couple of people have said that they're trying to understand what you're referring to.
Oh, okay. So right over here, when I first started, I used the initials for today's demo, Fine Homebuilding, and that's my job name, right? So this is my job name. And then underneath here is, I'm building like a job tree. So this might help out. This pencil that pops up, I can edit this, and let's just call this the first floor. So this is for this demo or this house, and we could even change this. Let's do this to Smith Residence. All right, so this is the project we're working on, the job, the Smith Residence. We're gonna start on the first floor. We're building our job tree right now. And so under the first floor, we have a floor joist. I'm gonna edit that. Looking at the plan, I'm gonna start at the lower left-hand corner for FJ4. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw the FJ-4 in here so I know what product I'm sizing. So now you can see I have my project, my location, and I can add members, I can add levels. So if I wanted to jump up and say I need to add another level to this, it's going to go through here, and now this would be like my second floor. So now I have the Smith resident and the first floor. So I could go through and size all of these. And when I did this, I left it at residential my urban exposure for my wind load and that. Now, if I needed to change, from residential to building, it's locked in here because I've added this product already. I've added something in there on my second floor because it's part of that. It's already locked as residential. So if I started a new level and it was commercial, I could change it to commercial. But this is my job tree right here. All right, so I'm going to jump back up into the joist, the FJ4. And as we go across here, these are the tabs that we're going to use to size, add loading, anything that will help us determine the size of this member as we're going across. So the first thing that I want to do is, this is a floor system, it's a joist. Yep. I don't need to convert the member. Let's say that it was a beam and I want a floor joist or joist and I want to convert it to a beam. I could do that once I added loading to that. Right here, this is the quantity. This is going to go with that material list that I was talking about. So if I bring back over these reference plans, and we're just starting with FJ4. So if I look at these and say one, that's a beam. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 FJ4. So I'm going to slide this back over here, and I'm going to say there's 6 of them, just to have, in case I want to use this as a material list later down the road. Going through here, I'm using the improved criteria for our deflection. Now there is high, improved, code minimum, and custom. Now, as we go through here today and size a beam, you're going to notice that the beam is L over 380. That's how Weyerhaeuser designs our beam product. It's not L over 400 or 480. It's L over 360. And then we have different allow TJ Web stiffeners at support ends, intermediate, depending on what you're trying to do. If it's a hangered and you want it at the end supports, you can click that. Allow TJ cantilever reinforcement. If you have a cantilever and you know that you're going to have a huge point load on that end, you may want to say, go ahead and allow these. And by no means, you don't have to have them checked on like I do, on or off. You can have them all checked on and save it as your default. Size a couple projects and see what's going on. And then you're like, I haven't sized anything that is giving me a cantilever reinforcement, so I'm going to uncheck that. And then this allow removal of supports with excess uplift. If you click on the little question mark, if there's anything that you have a question about, this is kind of acting like what our whole house software does, where it is the single sizing analysis models the members that are pinned, all the supports, meaning that the member are preventing it from moving up or down at each support. So it's removing that uplift so it won't cause the uplift. We're taking that away. And like I said, anytime you have a question on anything, you can go up here to the help and ask for the help. Or if there is a blue question mark on that screen, feel free to click on that blue question mark and dive deeper into that. So now once we get the member info all the way that we want it, we're going to jump over to our spans and supports. Now, the first time using it, if you don't see an object or a picture up here of what you're looking at, go ahead. It's right there. It's kind of hidden. It's green, but just click that and that will bring it up. The nice thing about these images, as we start going through and changing it, these update in real time so you can see it. By default, right now, it just goes to 15 foot. So as I do with all my training, and anytime I'm working on Forte Web, whether it's for myself or for a customer or training, is spans and loads are probably your most important tabs to get right. If you put something wrong in here, it can affect downstream, whether it's what it's carrying, what it's being supported by, the type of material that you're using. So if you can be most accurate at these first 2 screens. Other ones you have to be accurate at too, but this one you really want to follow what the plan is saying. So you have 2 different types of your dimensions, or 3 different types. You have the clear span, which is just basically from the inside edge to inside edge of your support. Then you have out to out, and as it updates, you can see it goes out to out, but the length never changes. It's 15 foot out to out. And then you have this custom dimension and locations. And this is the one that I use because I can come down here and specify where I'm measuring from. So as I'm looking at this FJ4 on the plan, I know that it's 16 foot, and I'm going to go ahead and put the foot mark in it. And then on the left side, I have a 2 foot overhang. So I'm going to add my 2 foot overhang. And so I like how this is looking. I can see it. Now I want to come down here and really pay attention to the supports. And I know at support 1, which is right by my overhang, is the solid wall. It's got a 2x6 sill on it. So I'm going to go here and go 5.5 inches. And then you can either go all the way down and fill out the information for support 1 or work across it coming down. I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave my support 2 at 3.5 inches because it is a hanger. And then dimension location. Where is this dimension pulling from? I'm going to say left. And then on this last one at the 16-foot mark is right in the center of that I-joist because of where the beam is hangering. It doesn't look like it's hangering yet because I haven't adjusted that yet. But as I get going over to the next columns, you'll start seeing what it looks like. So this one is a bottom justified because it's on the wall. This one I'm going to say is a face mount hanger. Now you'll see how the model changed. And then right here, I'm going to come down. What type is supporting the wall on support 1? It is a plate on concrete. What is supporting the hanger? It is a beam. And then what type of material am I using? I'm going to go ahead in my area and just say spruce pine fir. And then for this one, I'm probably going to size microlam. So I'm going to go ahead and just say it's a microlam. I'm going to have blocking in between each run of the overhang because that's standard framing practice. If you have a cantilever over a wall, you have to have some type of blocking in there. And then right here, what kind of accessories? None. What are your connector options? And if you click on that, that lets you match plumb to depth hanger. So if you're sizing 11/7/8, you're going to get 11/7/8 hanger. You're not going to get that 9.5 inch hanger that needs web stiffeners. Or I can specify, are there any skews? If so, what are they? What are the degrees? And does this need to be a converted flange or concealed flange or inverted flange hanger? Yes or no? So you can set those up prior to going. And now I have all the information I needed out here. Top edge bracing, bottom edge bracing. I don't have any of that for this solution. If I did, I could max allowable. I can come in here and say, I just want to see what the full length is, and it will tell me on my report. Or I can say custom, and what are my comments, right? Come through here, and I want interval bracing every 4 foot. I'm just going to say max allowable on all these, and we'll check it out in the report. All right. So next, I want to go to my load tab. And this might be where people start asking questions like, where did you come up with that loading? And I'll go through and I'll explain it as we're going through. So right off the bat, we have our default load of our floor, which is 40 and 12. The plan that I'm showing says that it's 15 and 40 for my typical dead load of my floor is 15. My live load is 40. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 15. And I can leave that as my default load, or I can, change whatever I want. Now I want to add another load, and I'm going to explain the loading to you as I bring these over to you. So right here, we have our default load coming across. That's just our typical 16-inch on center, our 40 and 15 loading. Then out here on this cantilever, we have a point load, and that's going to be in pounds per linear foot of our wall above this. So if we were framing this house, there's going to be a wall above this. And typical wall is 10 pounds per lineal foot. So we'll put that on there. And then we're also going to have a point load coming down that is acting as the roof trib coming down on it. So 10 foot of roof trib on each side coming down on this. And that all comes off of me looking at this right here. So I'm going to jump back over into here. Give me 1 second. And now I'm going to add load. So here you can copy the load over. So like if I wanted just to copy this load and quickly paste it over there, I could do that. But now I have to come in here and change my loading. So I'm going to change this to pounds per lineal foot. And you notice how where is this at? Where is it going across? It's grayed out. I can't do anything in here. I have to specify where it's going. And it's going right on that end of 1 3/4. So I'm just going to say 1 3/4 of that is going to be on there, not a foot. All right. And then I'm going to take my rule of thumb that it's 8-foot tall wall and it's 10 pounds per lineal foot. So I'm going to call this 80 pounds. And so I don't get confused on my dead load, I'm just going to say 8 foot of wall load. And then I'm going to say 10 PSF dead, just so I know what I'm adding in here. Now, this is a really good time to copy that load, because now we're going to add the 10 foot of roof load in. Or I could say add another load and go through here and say, I'm going to do another point load, pounds per lineal foot. It's going to be in the same location, right on the end of the I-joist right there. And now I have 10 foot of roof load or roof trib coming down with my loading of 15 and 40. So 15 times 10 gives me 150 dead load. And then depending where you're at location wise, you have 2 categories. You have your roof live and then your snow. If you're in an area like me that has a snow load, that acts as my roof live load. If you're in Texas, Florida, places that don't get snow, you just have your regular roof live load, and it's taken at a different iteration than your snow and your wind. So for the snow load, I'm going to take that 40 times 10, which is 400. And then I'm just going to put in here my notes so I know what's going on. And that's good enough for what I need. Depending if you're going to have to share this information with a building official or somebody, you may need to be a little bit more specific on your comments. But for what we're doing, I'm going to go ahead and change that. Now, let's say that by some chance, like in the manual, we had a tile load of like 10 additional pounds of dead load for tile. We could have added a quick load if we wanted one, if I created one for it, or I can add another one. Sometimes, depending on, it's a tile load, but I'm just going to add it to this. You can go ahead and add it to your existing default load if it goes over all those I-joists that we're sizing. All right. Is there a question? Sorry.
Yeah, Jim, why don't you add a tile load that's like 6 feet wide in the middle of the joist to show them what changes?
Okay. So I have another beam that thing that I'm going to size right after this one that will have the different loading for that. I'll show what the loading problem looks like.
You've got about 15 minutes until we're going to have to stop for questions.
Okay. So I'll we'll jump to that one next. But you can see right here, this added my 2-point loads for this. So whether we have holes, we can add holes to it. Forte Web will allow us to size holes. If we have holes in here or we want to know what's going on in a certain location, we can add these. If somebody notched your flange on a job site, you can add the notching, and we'll get more into that on the advanced class. Floor performance. This is our TG Pro rating. If you're not familiar with this, it's a lot of time studying vibration calipers, just a bunch of work went into this to get you a better than a 5-star pro rating. Or, we don't want to be like Amazon and have stars. We want actual numbers, and what do these numbers mean? And you can get with us at any time and we can go over this. Decking material, what is your decking? How is it going to be attached? Then we have modifiers, and these only help with the floor performance. So if this was a basement and we had a direct applied ceiling below it, is it a suspended ceiling? Is it 1/2 inch? Is it 5/8? You can add these, and that will improve your floor performance. I'm going to go jump over to product selection real quick, and I'm going to only select the TGIs. I'm going to say 210s because my market, yeah, there are 110s, but I'm going to go 210s. I'm going to say 11/7/8. I'm going to hold control and grab 3 different series, and I want 1 ply. So at this point, I've sized it. If you're like, oh, they want 110s, where do I buy it? This is an active link. You can click on it, and it'll bring you to our site where you can see where your area where certain sellers are at. My solution. Now that I have my solution, you can see I can check this and say only show things that pass. The ones that have the star beside of them, I did not have selected a 16-inch 110. This is just, hey, maybe you should look at this as a suggested solution. If it has an X, it means that it failed, and you can see why it failed. If I click on this one, and it failed on my pro rating because I said I want a pro rating of 40 or higher, and it's a 38. But if I go back to my floor performance and say, you know what, this one is a basement and there is 1/2 inch gypsum, watch what happens when I come back in here. That 210 that failed because it was a 48, now, or a 38 jumped up to a 43. So just by adding that ceiling, I got joist that works, and this cost index, and this is based on per wood volume, is cheaper than going 16-inch on center because I'm adding 19.2. So let's say I want to stick with the 19.2 and then click on the report. This is the report that I can print right here to PDF and email it, or I can look at the full detail of, summary of loads to support all through here. If an engineer is asking for certain things, all that information is right there. Typically, they want the PDF of everything that's going on. So this breaks it down where all that information that I put in. Here's my lateral bracing that was on that first screen that tells me where it needs to be. And now I can specify what that hanger was. So I'm going to use the IUS and go through there. And now I have my report. So as Stephen asked, I'm going to jump over to another product, and we're going to size a beam. So I'm going to bring this plan back over. This one's going to be a little more complicated. We're going to size this B6. We're going to have point load, and then we have additional loading for the landing of the stairs. So this will get us to what kind of adding that additional loading that we were talking about. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say add a member. It's a flush beam, and I'm going to change the name to B6 just so I have that in there. It's a flush beam. I have 2 in my floor system. I'm just going to do 1 for right now. I'm going to leave it at the improved L/480, even though it is a flush beam. And then let me just jump back here real quick to this. Job settings, Simpson strong. Okay, just make sure I had everything turned on the way I wanted it. So right here in this category is display multi-member connection as, and I have a couple options: none, full length, bi-spans, or detailed loads. This is just going to tell you if you have a multiply member, how to connect that multiply member. So I'm going to say full length on this one, and then we're just going to jump over to the spans so we can get this in here real quick. So I'm going to use my custom. Just happens to be that this beam is 15. On the left support, it's 3.5 inches. On the right, it's sitting on the concrete wall, so that's 5.5 inches. And I'm going to say that this one is to the center, and this one is to the right. Bottom, bottom, This one is a stud wall. This one is a plate on concrete. And I'm going to leave this one spruce pine, but instead of rim board on the inside, I'm going to have blocking. So I have my overall length of my beam the way that I want it. And now I'm going to go in and start adding my loads to it. So click on my loads tab. And the first one that I'm going to do is I'm going to say uniform pounds per square foot. And it's going to go all the way across it. And I have 8 inches of trib. The floor center is set at 16 inch on center. So I'm going to say 8 inches. And I'm going to say that this is going across the top of it. Where is it loading? Across the top. And then dead load, we did 15 last time, and we're going to say that it's 40. So this is just my default load. And then I'm going to do another, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this load. And now this load is going to change. It's not going to go all the way across. I'm going to add some distances in here where the floor changes. So let me find my PDF here real quick so I can slide that over. I'm looking at this 11-foot 1 3/4 where I have this B5 intersecting it, and then I have 16 inches of trib instead of the 8 inches. So that will come into play as we're going across here. So this one, I'm going to start it at 11-foot 1, and you can go 0.75 inches to the end of it. And I could have hit R, I could have done any of this, and then that one's going to be 8 inches, 15, 15. So you see how the diagram changed. So now I have more load on this end because of the span. I already have the full 16 inches or 8 inches on one side all the way across, but down here at this bottom, I have a full 16 inches of trib on both sides of it. Then I have a point load coming in from the side, and I'm going to leave it as a point load. And we know that that distance for that point load is at 11-foot 1 3/4 inches. And I'm going to put that on the front side of it. And now I'm going to add my dead load, and I'm just going to cheat and use what's on the manual, 36 and 120 for. So now you can see that it has that point load coming across on this beam. And once again, I should have been adding these, what each one, given a default of, normal loading with 8 inches of trib, another 8 inches of trib added at the flush beam, and then the point load from the flush beam. I could have put that information in there. I can add holes in this if I wanted to, just by clicking on adding a hole. So if I say, let's put a circular hole, 2 inches, and let's say that it's at, let's go 4 inches, sorry, and then 4 inches, and then let's say that the location is 5 foot, just to bring it out. I just want to show you how it updates the preview. And then is it centered? Most of the time it is. Yeah, they could have drilled the hole in the wrong location. And then you can say not centered. You can give it a negative offset, a positive offset. Up and down is off the center of the circle. Same thing, location analysis. We can add a location, like if we wanted to look at what was happening here, we can add, 10-foot 1.75 inches. And then I'm going to see what's happening on a foot on the other side. 12-foot 1. So I'm just going to get a little report that's what's going on in this area where that flush beam's hanging into it. If there happened to be a tapered cut, whether it was a height and slope, the icon or the preview will adjust as you click the radial. And then same thing again, we get to our product selection. I'm going to say microlam. I'm going to just stick with 11/7/8, and I'm going to say 1 and 2 ply. Click my solution. You can see how 1 ply works and 2 ply does too. And I'm going to show you 2 ply just to show you the full length member of what it looks like, how to attach it to apply member. So I choose that, go to my report, and now I have uniform from 0 to 15 foot, 1.5. I can use 10D nails at this location, or I can use the SSD screws, the MyTech, whatever I want, and it specifies, like say I change it to the Simpson Strong Drive, 2 inches, 2 rows, 1 face, 24-inch on center, L17 detail that goes with our framer's pocket guide. So now that I have kind of what I want here, I can print this out. My location analysis for shear, remember I put those 2 things in there. This is telling me what's going on in that 2-foot area where that point load's coming in. So you have this extra information right here. Here's your hole size that we put in there, and it passed resulting moment is 8%. And so now I can go ahead and print that. Now, you may have had that question, and then we'll open it up to questions. Is he hasn't hit save yet. If I go over here to my file, you can see recently files, right? There's my Smith. I can click on any of these to open it up. If I want to look at this one again, I can either click on the folder or go to the location or open my job up, and it goes right back to where I was at. So at this point, we'll turn it over to questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim. I know for everybody that's on this call, quite a few of you did stay on. It is a great topic. I know there's a lot that we went through tonight. One of the links that I put in the post was for the specification site, and I urge anyone that has additional questions or looking for extra education on Forte Web to go to the specification site and actually look up who your territory manager is and find out what they can do to help you get better at using the products that are here. A couple of things I wanted to mention is Forte Web will only size Weyerhaeuser and truss joist material. So this is not something where you're going to be able to work with competitors' material, as it's proprietary to everything that is done through our design values. Right now, I guess open it up to questions. If anybody on Fine Homebuilding, Ian, if you have any questions, I think we've pretty much answered everything. For those of you that are having trouble gaining access to any of the links, I know Josh, who is also on, and he's a Weyerhaeuser marketing expert. He will be able to send everything over to Fine Homebuilding and have follow-up emails sent so that you can access all of that information as well.
Steve and Jim, I would ask, is it possible to get additional training on this through any of the lumber yards or building material centers that work with you guys directly? I know that was how I got turned on to it when I started building my house, was as I was doing the design work, I had some back and forth with my building material sales guys, and they were pretty key in talking me through how to use the software so that I could come to them with a better idea.
So I just went to our wy.com and our wood products section. And so local lumber yards, guys that use that, yes, they have a knowledge of how to use the software, and a lot of them have probably been using it since it was TJ Beam back in the day. But you can go to this site right here and look for like some training videos, benefits. We have a bunch of training videos, anything that on here. If you need technical support, you can click on it. If you need Weyerhaeuser Learning, which is our online learning thing, modules with start to finish with Forte Web, load development, anything that has to do with our products, you can go onto that website. You do have to have a territory manager for your area approve you to have that and get the Weyerhaeuser Learning account. But if you have Forte Web and you just need training, you can email software support, you can call, and myself and 2 other trainers will gladly work with you and do some one-off trainings, sharing, doing Zoom, GoToMeeting, Teams meeting, whatever is convenient for you to give you that more of one-on-one type of training.
So we had one question posted to the Q&A. Is there a version of the software that is specific to mobile or plans for a future app?
Uh, I don't think we're planning an app just because it's a website. So you can go on to your phone right now, launch any Explorer, whether it's an Apple or Samsung, Google, and type in forteweb.com, and you should be able to get to that website.
So I don't see anything else popping up here specifically. Is there any other information, Steve or Jim, that you would give anyone who has interest in using this, or possibly some other creative ways that you've been involved with building contractors or even uh, material supply houses that have used the software?
Uh, I'll go first, and then if Steve needs to add anything afterwards. I touch the software probably every day, whether it's for a customer calling me to say, hey, and I get this one a lot from, I'm in the Western United States, so I have like Montana and California. I had one just the other day where a guy was trying to size a header for a Quonset that he wanted to be 25 foot long so he could get his airplane in. So I've sized a large stuff for people. I've had it where a customer calls me up and says, "Hey, I have this floor system and I want to give the builder or homeowner a couple of options on, best case scenario of the worst case I joist in that area." And so I can, quickly use Forte Web to size the joist and say, if you go 19.2 at 16 inch or 16-inch deep joist at 19.2, it's going to be cheaper than doing 11.7/8 at 12-inch on center. I can give them those different options fairly fast with Forte Web.
Yeah, I would just add that since changing over to Forte Web, probably 6 years ago, I would say 5, 6 years, at least 6 years ago, um, it's become a very widely accepted program among specifiers, architects, engineers, homeowners, as well as builders. A lot of the people that are running this are going to be in the field of design, just because it's usually quicker. Not everybody's like you, Ian, and just wants to dive right into it. But obviously, as you've seen tonight, it's pretty easy to get through. In our next presentation, which is going to be part 2 of this, Jim's going to dive deeper into really what makes Forte Web stand out amongst any of the competitors' sizing software that's out there, on how we can start linking loads from all the different floors to determine what size beam we need in the basement in order to carry, let's say a roof member or a roof beam.
Yeah, that was one question that I saw come up a few times, Steve, was with I believe you called it the job tree. And I think that was something that in my usage of the program, I don't know that I quite understood that you can start to link all the loads in the house together and specify those. I think that's going to be interesting to dive
Yeah.
into on the next
And
webinar.
the job tree is there really for a visual to separate your floors. I mean, typically when I do mine, I don't start at the first floor because I look at it from the roof down. That's where all your loading is generated from. And I put my first floor at the bottom. But everybody has their own way of doing it. But what's great is, even if if you didn't break things up into floors, you can still link them no matter what you're doing. So it's a great feature that our competition just really can't get a handle on yet.
I did also like what Jim showed, where you can deselect certain options based on what's available locally. I know where I am in Madison, Wisconsin, our building supply houses tend not to stock the 9.5 inch material, so it's good to just kind of delete that as as an option so that you can stick with what's available locally.
Yep. And, and that works too. Like if you uncheck it, it unchecks them all. If you check it, it checks them all, but you have the power to go in and say, you know what, 9.5, we don't even stock. So you can go in and do that with every series.
All right, well, we're 2 minutes over. I appreciate everyone that's been holding in there. Hope you'll be able to join us in July for future. And if there's any questions, like I said, please reach out. Fine Home Building knows how to get a hold of us. There will be information that's coming out within the next week or so. This recording will be on Fine Home Building. But we're here for you. It's part of our service-oriented approach to doing business in North America. So thank you again.
Yeah, and on behalf of Fine Home Building, I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and especially thank Jim for sharing his expertise with Forte Web, and for Steve for helping me along with the Q&A as we went through. And we look forward to seeing everyone here again in July for a deeper dive into Forte Web.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.